Letters from the front. The late Private E.J. Rao, Mr. J. Rao, mining inspector, has handed us the enclosed letter written by his late son, a few days prior to the Wilmans disaster in which he lost his life. Private E.J. Rowe was born at Friarstown and was the eldest son of Mr. J. Rowe. At the time of his death, he was 22 years of age, and for some time past he had been living with his uncle in the Goulburn Valley, leaving there to go to South Africa with the 5th Contingent. The letter, which was received during the week, says, Middelburg District, the 8th of June, 1901. Dear Father, we're now working around to the south of Middelburg under Brigadier General Benson, who is under General Blood, an old Indian fighter. We exchange shots with small bodies of Boers nearly every day. We are all getting full up of trying to corner a few Boers here and there, for unless they outnumber us about 4 to 1, they won't stand. I was in a very hot corner about 3 weeks ago. A few of H Company had to go into G Company to make up the strength of the company. H Company having to stay behind, and as luck would have it, I was one of those who had to go. We went out one morning to take some women from a farmhouse. We were about 30 men all told. About 16 of us under Lieutenant Murphy were thrown out as an advance guard. All went well until we neared the farmhouse, when my mate and I, who were acting as guards, went ahead. My mate, who was on the left, reported that he saw a few Boers, but Lieutenant Murphy, who came up and had a look, would not have it that there were any Boers. We had not gone very far when we were surprised by a hail of bullets, and found the Boers had ridden around behind us and were closing in on every side. We dismounted at once and returned their fire, but soon saw it was no good, as they were firing point blank at us, so those of us who could jumped on our horses and cut for dear life. As we had a mile to gallop before reaching cover, the Boers must have had fine fun potting at us. Some of them were chasing us, firing as they rode. The bullets were cracking all around me like so many stock whips, but strange to say, neither the horse nor I were hit. The rest of the company had made it to the farmhouse, from whence they partly covered our retreat. Out of the 16 of us, 4 were killed, including Lieutenant Murphy, who went under at the first volley. 1 sergeant wounded and 2 privates taken prisoner. The Boers did not get off scot-free, as they left 4 killed and 2 wounded on the field when they retired, which they did on seeing the relief coming to us. The weather here is very cold at night, but the days aren't so bad. It seems it very seldom rains here in winter. The grass is just as dry now as it was with you in midsummer. There is a huge fire raging around the camp at present. It appears to be the practice to burn off the grass in the winter to get the young growth in the spring. I'm keeping in the best of health, but like the rest of us, would not care if they sent me home again tomorrow. We've got a lot of Tommy officers over us, and they will have us all like Tommies very soon if they keep on as they are going. We are frightened to do anything now without orders. I must now conclude with love to all from your affectionate son, E.J. Rowe, number 1481, H Company, 5th Victoria Mounted Rifles, Field Force, South Africa. Trooper W. McMahon of Carcourt has written to his relatives in Castlemaine from Oliphants River, South Africa. The letter is dated July the 5th, 1901, and we extract the following, quote, Soldiering is not the best game in the world, and I think tin soldiering is the best after all. They can have this country on their own when my time is up, as I've seen enough of it. I got bad at Middelburg and had to go to hospital with slow fever. My temperature was 103 when I went in. I had looked after myself in time, so it was only in 3 weeks. H. McLean went to Pretoria Hospital with fever on the 15th of May, and I've not seen or heard from him since. Harry Vick is with the Scottish Horse, and I haven't seen him since April. Sergeant Curnow is in hospital with fever, and Alfred Newton of Kyneton was wounded in the arm. I am about the only Castlemaine district man left, and out of 127 men who started in G Company, there are now only about 60 men left. All the rest are either killed, wounded, or in the hospital. We had a rough time on the 12th of June at Wilmans, and since then we were fighting nearly every day until we reached Middelburg. We had to walk the whole 140 miles, which took us 14 days. I think we're now going in the direction of Renosterkop. Everything is very dear over here and the weather is very dry, but the wet season will soon be on. Don't think the war will last much longer now, as the Boers are getting very hard up for food and clothing. I intended to send over a few of our sweet biscuits, but they are too precious. I think they would make a good foundation for a house. They are so hard. Our daily allowance is 5 biscuits and a quarter of a pound of jam. But sometimes when we are near a town we get bread, and when we are out we sometimes get plenty of poultry and pigs around farms. Yapeen from our correspondent. A letter has been received from Charlie Topham, dated at Middelburg, and it is a strong contrast to the one he was written in his first campaign in South Africa. It's dated the 14th of August 1901, and one piece of news all will be sorry to hear is that Sergeant Curnow is down with typhoid fever in the district hospital. Topham writes in the most glowing terms, and his comrades are now wishing the war to continue. Now it is more like a picnic than a war. Everything is abundant, and John Bull is doing what he should have done in the first place, treating the Boers to the utmost rigour of war. The columns in the affected districts leave a desert behind them, destroying what they cannot remove. The men can loot, and it generally takes the form of tucker. Discipline is so far relaxed that when on the march nearly every soldier has hanging to his belt a fowl of some kind, and occasionally one is lugging behind a suckling pig. And then a variety of grub is freely divided with the prisoners they capture, and Topham describes them as miserable objects, ragged, filthy, careworn and hungry. The poor ignorant men of the commandos begin to understand what the horrors of war really mean, yet the captives are treated humanely and express surprise at their kind treatment. No retaliation is permitted, and when the Boer women spit in the faces of the soldiers, they only laugh and stick their tongues out, which makes the ugly, piebald females mad with rage. Taradale soldier's letter. Sergeant J.C. Wright, the youngest son of Mr. W. Wright of Taradale, who accompanied the 5th Victorian contingent to South Africa, has written a lengthy letter to his parents, giving details of the lamentable disaster which took place on the 12th of June last. Mr. Wright's letter is written from Ermelo and is dated the 23rd of June. The following are a few extracts from the letter, which will prove interesting to many in this district who are well acquainted with the writer. Quote, "The Victorian contingent was formed into 2 battalions, right and left half. I belonged to the left, the half that was afterwards cut up so badly. We were ordered out as a firing column, and with 2 days' rations and 2 pom-poms, which threw a 1-pound shell at the rate of 100 a minute. We went off about 300 of us in all. On Wednesday night, the eventful 11th of June, we were camped at a farmhouse at a place called Vilmansrust in the Ermelo district. In the evening we saw some 150 or so Boers in sight, but took little or no notice of them, as it had been a pretty common occurrence of late, for they evidently had been following us, preparing for this. All we did was to have a few shots at them with the big guns, which knocked one of them over. They apparently wanted us to fire so as to get the location of the guns. At 10 minutes past 8, just as we had finished drinking our rum, which we get issued every second night, and were all merrily joking around the fires, a fearful fire from about 150 rifles burst upon us from a distance of 20 yards. We were almost panic-stricken, as we were so unprepared for it. It was pitch dark. Not half our men could find their rifles, and those who could dare not fire them for fear of shooting a comrade. I've no doubt several of our men were killed by our own fire. From the time the first shot was fired until we were in our lines, I am sure we were not more than 5 seconds. Then you should have heard the shrieks of the Dutchmen. 'Hands up!' they cried. 'Hands up, Corky, or I'll shoot you dead.' And so they did. They were shooting, or rather murdering, our poor fellows in bed. The disastrous rifle fire only lasted about 20 minutes at most, and we had nearly 20 men lying on the veldt, killed or wounded. It was useless to resist. I surrendered after about a quarter of an hour. There were about 200 surrenders before I joined them. The Boers took us all from us all they wanted of our belongings, and kept us a few hours until they got our convoy and guns safely away. Then came the worst task of all, as each of us had to search for an hour or more with lighted candles for the dead and wounded, and I shall never forget it to my dying day. It was bitterly cold too, but what coats and blankets we could find were willingly given to the wounded. We lit big fires and stood on the south side to form a barrier to break the frosty wind off the wounded. My lucky star must have been shining that night, as of 7 sergeants in our company, 4 were hit. We consider the loss of the pom-poms worst of all, as it is looked upon as a disgrace. I do hope the day will come when the 5th Victorians will get them back and have sweet revenge. I consider the whole disaster was caused by pure neglect and carelessness of the officers in command in not having proper pickets and guards around the camp. 2 minutes warning would have enabled us to defend ourselves. Right, next stop is Wangaratta. And I have absolutely no doubt the locals call it Wang. Now I've been here a couple of times, once again on the Ned Kelly trips. We hired a bus one time, a group of us, and we wore cardboard Ned Kelly helmets and we drove around this area. I think Ned's sister was married in a cathedral here in Wangaratta. But as you know, today we're here for the Boer War Monument. I think I can see it. We're opposite the RSL on Ovens Road. And let's get out of the car and let's do this. Lots of nice old churches here. It's a beautiful old town, Wangaratta. In fact, I can see a big sandstone cathedral church type thing. Maybe that's where Ned's sister was married. But here's our Boer War monument, suitably old now. The South African Boer War Memorial in Wangaratta. The War Memorial, originally a fountain, commemorates the peace signed at Pretoria and the soldiers from the district who died in service or were killed in action in the South African Boer War. The original plaques have been replaced. It lists the names of 4 soldiers from the district who died serving in South Africa. A quote from the Benalla Standard of the 4th of March 1902. The contractors have begun the erection of the monumental drinking fountain, which is to be placed on a reserve near the town hall, to perpetuate the names of Private Mackenzie and other district soldiers who have fallen in South Africa, and the work will be completed at an early date. The monument, which will face Ovens Street, will stand 20 feet on a bluestone base. From the Benalla Standard of the 1st of April 1902, a monument which will also serve as a drinking fountain has been erected on the reserve near the town hall to perpetuate the memories of Private Archibald Mackenzie, Samuel Oliver, William Petty, and Edwin Borden, 4 natives of this district who have lost their lives in the South African War, and was unveiled by Colonel Hode this afternoon in the presence of a very large gathering of town and district residents. Patriotic addresses delivered by Mr. J. Bowser, MLA, Mr. W. Orr, MLC, and other speakers including Colonel Hode, Colonel Henry, the Mayor, Councillor W.K. Allen, Mr. W.H. Edwards and Mr. J. Sisley. The gathering included relatives of the deceased soldiers, the borough councillors and the local clergy who were accommodated on a temporary platform. Members of the Wangaratta Detachment J Company VMR Rifle Club, the town band, firemen and 200 district cadets and officers were also present. I was looking on the web, and at Euroa, which we passed, there was a Boer War monument, or there had been, and it looks like they took it down and they incorporated all their war memorials into one place, and so they added the names of the Boer War men onto like an avenue they have in Euroa with all their war memorial statues, and because they got a few Victoria Cross. There's a Maggie. Hello, Maggie. They've got a few Victoria Cross winners in Euroa. a nice cannon there. So yeah, I hope that's not a habit. They start dismantling these and incorporating them into one big monument. So anyway, here we go. To the memory of the Victorians. Victoria's soldiers who died for the Empire in the South African War. Private Archibald Mackenzie, killed in action, Rietfontein, the 23rd of October 1900, aged 26 years, born at Wangaratta on the 8th of September 1874. And that looks new, doesn't it? It's very new. Oh look, you can sort of make out some, that's who made this monument. Yeah. So there's some more here. Private Joseph Samuel Oliver, killed in action, Costas River. I haven't heard of that one. 22nd July 1900, aged 30, born at Wangaratta on the 8th of March 1870. Peace declared at Pretoria, June the 2nd, 1902. Not quite accurate. Peace declared at Vereeniging. Okay. Oh look. So Private William Petty, we've just been to see his memorial at the cemetery in Greta. Died Pretoria, South Africa, 27th of December 1900, age 23. Now the fact that he died at Pretoria, probably from the fever. Private Edward C.M. Borden, El Dorado, died at Melbourne, Victoria, 7th of August 1901, age 24. I've been to El Dorado. It's up near Beechworth, and I know there's a memorial to that fella at El Dorado, but it's probably not one I'm ever going to go to. It's just too far away and out of the way. All right. Enjoyed Wangaratta. I like the old memorials, the old, you know, the way they were designed rather than modernising them with polished marble and gold lettering and all that. I like the old patina on them. All right. Stop recording.